Discover the Fit Dad Community podcast, where every episode strengthens your journey as a father. Hear from experts, coaches, and real dads on balancing fitness, faith, and family. Gain practical tools for your everyday life. Join us to support your family better and build stronger communities. Fit Dad Community Podcast. Fitness for life, not just the gym.
All right. What's up, Fit Dad Community? Welcome back to another powerful episode. Today, we're diving into a topic that hits close to home for so many of us: burnout. You know that feeling when you're running on empty, trying to be everything to everyone, and feeling like you're failing at everything. Yes, we're going there tonight. I'm fired up to introduce my incredible guests. First, we have Melissa Blenderman. She's a certified professional coach. She's a mom. She's a wife. She works in different industry and executive level. Someone who lived through it. How you doing, Melissa?
I'm good. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. So before we go further, can you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah. So as you said, my name is Melissa. I am an executive leadership and business coach. And I really got into coaching because I believe that everyone deserves to live their most fulfilled life, whether that's professionally or personally. And so after spending 20 years in corporate America, I built high performing teams, creating different cultures, leading employee engagement, and achieving strong performance and results in the teams that I led. I actually myself got burnt out, was really in a bad spot. And so decided that I needed to make some changes. And we'll talk about that as we get into the podcast here. But really found my own coach. And through my own coaching journey, it really changed my life. And now I help others to do the same, particularly those involved in business, high performers within business.
Oh, that's great. So I know our audience is asking what this really matters, right? So here's the reality, right? So, you know, burnout, it's not about being tired, right? It's about losing yourself in the ground. It's about sacrificing your health, your faith, your time with your kids, all while telling you I'll rest when things go slow down, right? And you know that, right? But things never slow down, do they? So that's
No.
why this conversation matters, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot be a dad, a husband, the man God called you to be if you're running on fumes. So, with your experience, Melissa, why high performers burn out?
Yeah. So I think that as high performers, we're used to being successful at everything. And oftentimes we think we have to do it all ourselves, right? We're either perfectionists and think no one else can do it, or we just feel that pressure because we have always been successful to always look successful. And so we keep pushing and pushing and pushing to drive that performance, to show up as a parent or a spouse or a partner. But on the inside, we feel like we're crumbling because we're trying to do it all on our own, and that doesn't work. As I said, I was from the outside. People looked at me and said, wow, look at this woman. She's successful. She's got this great relationship with her husband. Her kids are great kids and they're in all these things and she's there for them. And all the other areas of my life, people would tell you, I didn't look burnt out. I looked fine.
Yeah.
But on the inside, I was dying, right? And burnout isn't just I'm unhappy or I don't like my job, or it's truly, it's truly a state of mental capacity where you just are really struggling mentally. From the outside looked good, but I felt like I was failing in everything in my life, right? I wasn't happy in my job. I actually hated my job at the time, which was really part of what drove that burnout too. I felt like I was failing as a wife. My relationship with my husband was not nearly as strong as I wanted it to be. And I felt like I was failing my kids because yes, I would be there for them at a sporting event or at a thing, but mentally I was not there. I was not present for them in the way that I really wanted to be. And that was because I was just trying to do everything for everyone to show that I could do that, because that's what I was used to being able to do. I was used to being able to be that high achiever who could do it all and who was successful. But as the demands kept piling on, it just wasn't possible any longer.
We have Billy tonight. How you
Hey
doing, Billy?
guys.
Hi,
So
Billy.
I'm going to do a quick introduction about Billy. So Billy is also a dad, entrepreneur. He's also my business partner at Fit That Community. So obviously, Billy, this is Melissa. So Billy, can you tell Melissa a little bit about you?
Yeah, appreciate the being on the call. I was on the first pod. Excited to be back. And with Melissa, I saw your background and you guys emailing. So it was really exciting to meet you. And yeah, a little bit about myself. In manufacturing is what my day job is, right? So we own some businesses in the plastics, the metals, all the different things in that commodities. But yeah, I'm excited about what Carl's doing and with Fit Dad and I'm a supporter of what he's doing with all of this. So I'm here to support him and listen to your story too, Melissa.
Yeah.
So Billy, we were talking before you jump in. We were talking about why high performers burn out. So obviously, as you talk about what you've been doing, uh, being a dad, being a business owners and everything you got going on. I mean, this guy go like 100 miles per hour. So from your experience, obviously you are around also high professional, high performers. So, what story did it tell you, when they experience burnout? What they usually tell you, or if you yourself have experienced that before?
Right. I feel like it's one of those things. Internally, you realize it might even be coming, and yet you just keep going, right? And that's the self-awareness part. Like, I think a lot of high performers, high achievers have that self-awareness, but they push through it. And then all of a sudden it's like, bang, you're like, you get knocked out. It's almost like, you're Rocky in the fight and then you get one hit and you're like, oh, that didn't feel too good.
Yeah.
I think that's 100% true. I think that comment about we push through, again, as high achievers, we're used to being measured on our results, and our culture that exists, especially if you're in, say, a corporate role or in a really high demanding business role, is that you're always on. And culture is that. I remember there were times where I was actually on vacation with my family. I had a cousin graduating. They lived in Hawaii. We went to Hawaii, and I was supporting the person I was supporting was in Italy. I was on phone calls because it was a 12-hour difference in the middle of the night to support the planning and budgeting process that we had going on, because that's what I thought was expected of me. The culture is that these are so important. You can't take this time away to pause and reset. The priority was to get those results, to always be on, to always be available. And especially as the digital age came on, we didn't adjust. We just started taking our phones with us everywhere, our computers with us on vacation, where historically, work got left at the office. When you left at the end of the day, that was it. There really wasn't much more than that, because there was no way to make it more. And the culture didn't adjust with it. And so we're just expected to perform. When you're early in your career, at least for me, I did that because I thought that's what I had to do to prove myself. And I think there is a little bit of proving yourself when you enter a new company or a new career or a new area. But once you get doing it, then it becomes the expectation, and you just keep doing it because you think that's what has to be done in order to be considered successful.
Right. And I feel like you enjoy it in the beginning, right? You're like, oh, this is like a dopamine. It's like, all right, this is a high. I'm achieving these things. I'm feeling the rush of finding solutions for different things, and then all of a sudden you're like, if you go too hard, you lose that joy, right?
Yeah. 100%. So let me ask you guys a question. So I know you guys kind of touched a little bit about it. How do you spot the warning signs?
Yeah, I think for me, I my kids, so you have a lot of dads probably listening, right? My kids started pushing on me a little bit. I think that's a great warning sign for you to pay attention to as well, right? For example, when I would be like working on vacation, or a great example, I was sitting at sporting events, but I was on my phone, and my kid would say to me after the game, "Hey, did you see?" And I said, "No," because my face was in my phone, right? So or they would, be like, "Why are you working? We're on vacation." Like, they don't understand that, like, like they have those boundaries, which is a big part. If we want to talk about things in a bit here about how to prevent burnout, boundaries is a big one. They know those boundaries. When you're here, you're supposed to be here. And when we're on vacation, you're supposed to be on vacation. So I think they're a good gauge for me when I start to get too caught up in something. They'll start like kind of challenging me because they think that's not normal. You shouldn't have to do that. And so they're a good gauge. I I dreaded going to work every day. Literally dreaded going to work every day. When you don't have that energy, when you're not excited about something, that's a great sign of that you're on a path to potential burnout, because you should be excited about what you're doing. You should be excited about work, or being there for your family, or being there for friends. I mean, burnout doesn't just happen because of your commitments to your work, but it could be that you're overcommitting yourself to a circle of friends who aren't filling your cup back in the way that you need, and you may need to set some boundaries with them as well. So I think those are a couple good things that I would highlight to this group specifically on how to spot some burnout.
I love that. I love that. And I will add to that. It's like the screens and everything, screen time. You get that notification on a Sunday and you're like, how much time did I spend on my phone?
Yeah.
And no, I love that analogy of like, because one of your kids might tap you on the shoulder and be like, dad. And then you're like, oh man, like I'm on my phone. And that's never a good feeling, right? So I love that. That's great.
Yeah, I think the beauty of this, like, it's like the three of us talking right now, but there's a lot of people, watching us or right now working in a working for force that are experiencing the same thing, and sometimes they don't even know what they're feeling, right? So you never turn it off, right? You always constantly, thinking about something. And that's where you be like, man, why am I constantly thinking about this? I thought I left that behind me, but I'm always constantly thinking about it. So now, and then I was reading something on when they say 85% of the workforce experience burnout. And when you think about it, Billy, you a business owner, and when you have 85% of your workforce that feel that way, productivity goes down, and a lot of people are calling off, and sometimes, as we still got to get the job done. So the first time you say, yeah, so this person call off, you'd be like, oh my God, this is money. This is I have to work overtime. Somebody had to work overtime. But sometimes we forget the human aspect of it, right? Had to connect to people and say, man, what is going on in your life? What is happening that you feel that way? Like Melissa, like you were taking is, at some point I was hating going to work because I was dreading going to work because, the energy was not there. So based on your guys' experience, when you spot the warning signs, so those are the bad thing, right? So now how you reclaim your energy and get alignment so you can feel rejuvenate. So Melissa, I'm going to start with you. So how do you do that?
Yeah. So first, I want to say I'm so happy to be doing this specific discussion tonight, because I think traditionally burnout has been associated with women. We often talk about women burning out, trying to do the mom and all of the keep the well-being of everybody in the family, and taking care of everyone around her. And I think that the men piece of this equation has gotten lost. And so I think just having this discussion and recognizing that burnout is not specific to any gender, is a really critical thing to help us move forward in these types of discussions, right? Because again, and maybe it's because I'm primarily female. You guys may tell me I'm wrong, but I feel like I've just consistently heard about burnout with women and just not as much with men. And so I think it's great that we're having this discussion. But then I think when you recognize that this is where you are, I think you have to take a step back and really look at what are your values and where do you want to invest your time? Your time is your greatest commodity, right? And so when I was in my burnout phase, my really deep burnout phase, that's what I did. I took a step back and I took a look and I said, what is really most important to me? And I realized that I had constantly defined my success as career. My career was what defined whether I was successful or not. And so I was constantly striving for that next role, that next role, that next role. And when I took a step back and realized that, at the time my daughter would have been, in middle school, and I was running out of time with her, and I've got two boys coming after her, right? Like I was running out of time with them. And actually for the next however many years that they were going to be under my roof, for sure, my biggest success would be how I raised my kids. And I really redefined success for myself. Now, that doesn't work for everyone. Everyone has to, and that's why I said you have to look at what your personal situation is, what your goals are, and what is your definition of success for you. Because when you can align your definition of success to something that brings you fulfillment, and then start putting in place tactics to focus on that, is when you'll be able to get out of that burnout. Because not everything, but then your focus is on the things that really bring you that joy, that really bring you that fulfillment. And so for me, I looked at it and I said, man, my kids, they are what is most important to me right now. And in a few years, when they're all gone out of the house, maybe that adjusts and maybe I come back to a career as being that success defining thing. But for now, my focus has to be on them. And so what does that mean? That means that I no longer, no longer take the roles that don't allow me to show up for them in the way that I want to show up for them. So, I did take a different role shortly after I came out of this. It required travel. Actually, first they wanted me to relocate. I said, nope. I set a boundary. That's a boundary for me. I cannot relocate my kids. Nope, I will not do that to them. So then it required travel. And I said, I will do it under these stipulations. I will not miss 2 baseball games in a row. I have to dictate my travel schedule and I will fit it around. I'll fly early in the morning. I'll fly late at night. I'll do those things, but it has to allow me that I know I'll miss some things, but these are kind of my boundaries around what I'm willing to do and what I'm not willing to do, because my kids are my priority right now. That's my success factor. That's what fulfills my life. Right. And so then I started setting boundaries. I really started doing self-care. So I'm a lifter. I lift on a regular basis now. I meditate. I read for joy. I love to read, and I hadn't been reading much at all. So I make sure I set time aside each day to do some reading. You have to find those things that help you kind of reset yourself, and really invest in yourself and really focus on what fulfills you most.
That's awesome. I love these type of conversations because they're real. You don't do this at work. You don't do this with like people at dinner. you just have, sometimes you get that conversations going and it's great. Right. So for me, and it kind of goes back to that last question, is like a good leader can read the room. And so if you're walking around the plant for me, for instance, and you can see the culture is like drowning a little bit, you're like, all right, what can we do to change this up? What can we do differently to set the tone a little bit? So I wanted to speak to that. And then the other thing is like, I love that you talked about your time and your thoughts and how you go about your day. I remember seeing something like you have thousands of thoughts a day, right? And so if those are negative thoughts, positive thoughts that don't maybe matter to what you're trying to achieve, they're not going to help you. So I mean the positive ones will, right? But the ones that, like, if you think of it as like your time versus your thoughts. That's the equation, because you can burn yourself out real quick or lose energy really quick if you're doing things that don't matter per se, or are aligned with what you want to do. I like to think of it as like, somebody once told me, it's like, fill your plate, but also fill your cup. And so it's like, yeah, your plate's going to be full, but your cup's got to be full too, which means like you got to enjoy it. Right. And I love that analogy. And then it's feeding your soul, your mind, your body. Like, yeah, all these things, like, yeah, you work out and everything, but you've got to really like feed it, like read, listen to podcasts like this, do things that, like, mean something to you, but also give you energy at the end of the day.
Oh, this is great, and and I'm glad that you talk about the story about how you try to get involved in your kids, be there for the baseball games and stuff like that. So, I just quick story. This guy here, Billy, I used to coach him a long, 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 long time ago. So I used to be his high school coach, but now I'm back to coaching again. Now I'm coaching my own kids, and this past weekend we went to a tournament, a soccer tournament in Indy. And even though I was the head coach, and I got to spend one-on-one time with my son, so it was only the two of us, and I had so much fun. It just at first driving there, I was like, oh, he just got in the car and fell asleep. I was like, oh, here you go, my co-pilot. I'm just the only one driving by myself. He just left me, right? But we had so much fun, staying in the same room, just talk. It's just the two of us. Like, I have three kids, so it was the two of us, and we got to watch a soccer game together. Like, a Saturday night, we hung out, we went out to eat, and I asked him a question. I was like, you always say you love your dad. I say I love you. He said, I love you too, Dad. So I was like, so why do you love your dad? He said, I love my dad because you're caring. I see how you care about the other kids in the team. You're a nice person. You always try to keep me up. And I was like, oh, this is really nice to hear, because it's so easy. We become immune to them. I love you. I love you back. I love you. I love you back. Now I really wanted to know, why do you think you love me? And to see how thoughtful he was, that was very that brought the energy. And I was like, man, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, right? The fact that he can see the good thing in me coaching other kids, and I'm coaching them, even though we got into it in the last game, but he still saw, the time that he got to spend with me, like it was, one on one. But I'm glad that you say that. For me, that's one, that's one. Story that I have. But another thing that has been a game changer for me was the start of the Fit Dad community, and the network that I have, to the Fit Dad, the number of people that I didn't know him a year ago. Now that I get to call him, I get to text him, and every month we do a monthly event, and just to go there, I mean, just the thought that, oh, we had a Fit Dad event tonight makes me happy. Like, I just had a long day at work. Now I got to go to the Fit Dad event and just have fun. So, and I think we just started a Fit Mom community. So that's why you as a guest tonight, and I'm glad that you said that you're a lifter. This is
I am.
great. You went
Yeah.
to fit, so this is great. So we
Yeah.
just started a Fit Mom community, and we saw the benefit of having the Fit Dad community, even though we just started. But now we want to expand it, and I was like, man, we want the moms that get the burnout. Like you said, most women burn out quick, So we want them to have the opportunity to have an escape and be like, hey, I can get my energy back, by just being part of this community. So that's what we're about in this community. So kind of brought me to the next topic. How do we keep the drive so we don't, how we keep going.
I love that you brought up community. I think community is so important. I actually just posted on someone's LinkedIn post today, a comment. They had talked about it, and I said, basically, who you surround yourself. You need to surround yourself with those people that lift you up, and not those people that bring you down. Right? You're going to rise to those that you surround yourself with. And I think that, I even mentioned a little bit earlier, right? Like some of us have very large social circles. We have lots of people that we're trying to give our time to, and not all of them are reciprocating the energy that we want in our lives or that we're trying to strive towards. So I think finding a community of like-minded people who hold you accountable, who inspire you, right, to continue to continue to grow and to continue to do things, right. I'll share a story. Even when I was going through all of my challenges and burnout, there was a woman that I worked with, and when I first had started in a company, her and I started talking, and she would call me basically every day on my drive home, and she would complain about our sales team every day. She called me, complain about our sales team. And at first I was like, you're right, they're not doing this or they're not doing that. And I really, we kind of like bonded over this frustration with our sales team. And I realized that that was not doing me any good. Right. And that wasn't where I wanted to put my effort and where I wanted to put my time. So I remember one night I was like, I can't talk to you about this anymore. We need to figure out how we're going to help them instead of complaining about them, this negative energy. Right. And she really turned. It was not good. She was a pretty toxic person, but basically then I disconnected myself from her, and just that standing up, setting that boundary that I'm not going to do this and stop investing my time in her was part of my recovery. Because when you are around people who are like-minded, who want the same things, who want to continue to grow, it's just so inspiring. If you get sucked into those groups where I'm going to complain about what everybody else has, or I'm going to do this or whatever, you also can get sucked into that. And personally for me, I'd much rather invest my time and energy in those things that are going to make me better and make me feel good than not. So if you can find a community that you can be a part of, your Fit Dad community or your mom community that you're starting now. I have a community of moms that are fantastic that I, aspire. I'm actually going to Austin next weekend to see a bunch of, to see a bunch of them. So it's just it makes life easier, to be quite honest. Because when you have those bad days, they're there to boost you up. And when you want to celebrate, they're there to celebrate with you. It's just really, it helps you to not get sucked into that negativity that is just surrounding us across the entire scope of our world, right? That we can get sucked into so easily.
Oh yeah. And that's why I love the community, the Fit Dad community and everything, because you can get vulnerable, but you can also we're out there lifting weights with each other, lifting each other up. It's really awesome because, like you said, sometimes in work you have people that can be that bubble burster, and and for me, mood is everything. So if my mood's down, for the day at work or at home, then everyone else's mood, reflects on that, right? So I totally agree with that. And I shared this book with Carl I'm reading right now. I'm in about, I don't know, I would say halfway through it, and it's Extreme Ownership. And it's these two Marines that go into businesses, and they basically say you need to have no excuses. If you're negative, if you're bringing the team down, that's an issue, right? You've got to take ownership for your actions, and if you're losing, realize you're losing and find a solution to win. And then, so the people that are never really succeeding in these situations are the ones that are saying, it's this person's fault. It's this person's fault. It's all these faults, all these excuses. And they're no, that is not it. You got to take ownership for it. You got to move on it, and that, I think, in general just keeps the drive going.
Yeah.
No, this is
I think you touched on a point too, right? I try to do a really good job on focusing what I can influence or control. And I think that oftentimes we can get into, a burnout situation because we are putting so much focus into stuff that we have no control over. And so we feel a bit helpless or anxious because we can't control that, right? So for example, I quit watching the news. It just made me depressed because there's all these things happening around. And I personally, there's very little that I can do to impact any of that, right? So I really just, decided that I didn't need that negativity in my life. Or, when you're going through a tough situation at work, the economy's not great. A lot of companies are going through reductions with their workforce right now. That's super stressful. That's, happened at my companies previously. And my focus was what we can control. We can't control what's going to happen. What we can control is that we continue to perform, we continue to show our value, we communicate well with each other. So let's focus on what we can control. Whatever's going to happen is probably going to happen. Me as a leader, I will step in and try to influence where I can influence, but let's focus on what we can control, because focusing on what we can control really helps us to just, it takes off that anxiety. Why worry about something if we can't do anything about it?
Yeah, it's like that. It's like that 80-20 rule, right? You're just like, all right, let's focus on the 80 because the 20's not working for us. And Mel Robbins, she like that let them theory is so cool because it's like, you know what? Let them think that. Let them do their thing. Let them do that. You're like, I'm gonna still do me. They're not gonna control what we're trying to accomplish,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most people, and I think it's sometimes it's the biggest strength of people, right? Is to recognizing when we need help. Especially men, we're notorious for that. If we're struggling, we like to deal with the struggle inside. We don't talk about it. And sometimes we need to kind of see that, hey, why do I need to bring this negative energy into my life? Because I cannot be everybody's problem solver. We cannot do that, right? Sometimes, and I had this conversation with one of my best friends. I was like, hey, look, you cannot solve everybody's problems, And I was watching the comedian. He said, was it Ice-T? I don't know. Yeah, he said, you know what? I don't like to take the cab. And the reason is, he said, all right, so if this guy is having a bad day as a cab driver, now he's not happy. So because of that, you might miss his plane because this guy is not happy because he gets stuck in traffic. Now he's bringing his problems into me. So he said, I'd rather drive myself. So if I'm late, I'm late. That's my problem. Like Billy was saying, I think ownership of me being late. Now instead of relying on somebody to take me to the airport or something like that. Now, if that guy got in a car accident, or he got a phone call from somebody and he's in a bad mood. Now his problem becomes your problem. So, so that was a funny take on it. I was like, you know what? I never thought about it.
Yeah, no, I like that.
So one of the things that I want to a little story talk about the importance of community. So obviously we talk about the FitDat community, and we got this guy here, Tyler. So this weekend I'm a big Miami Hurricane fan. He's one of the FitDat, and he was giving me a hard time while I was when I was eating dinner with my son, and he keeps saying, "Hey, Dad, why are you laughing?" I was like, "Hey, man, those guys are making fun of me because I'm watching the Miami Hurricane." But that's what we talk about, right? Having this community when even though I was stressed about the game, I find some fun out of it. And you'd be like, you know what? It's just a game. Why am I stressed about it? But it just stuff like that. It was me, Billy, CJ, and and Tyler on a group text talking about Miami. And next thing you know, Miami made a comeback and everybody got quiet. Everybody got quiet. So that was fun. So this is great conversation. So Melissa, for people that want to get a hold of you and they feel inspired by what you're saying tonight, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, the best way, easiest, is reach out on me on LinkedIn. So I have a LinkedIn page. I actually post content almost every day with some leadership tips and, advice, particularly around being authentic leaders, vulnerable leaders, how leaders need to change in today's workplace in order to actually be more impactful for how the workforce likes to be led versus some of the historical ways that we have led. So that's the easiest place to get me is at Melissa Blinderman on LinkedIn.
Good. So we know how to get a hold of Billy because everybody knows Billy, right? So Billy, do you have any kind of news you want to talk about Fit That community?
Yeah, I think it's really neat that we're starting the Fit Mom community too, because dads can be a little bit resistant, and so now we're gonna have the moms pushing the dads. But seriously, I am huge into like community. I think in my LinkedIn it says like community enthusiast, because if somebody needs help, there's always a solution. That's what I tell everybody. Like, even my kids, I'm like, don't get upset. There's always a solution. And I was helping somebody, the other day, and they were like really hitting a roadblock, and it's like, well, I might know somebody, or I might know something from my experience that I can help you with this. And sure enough, we got through the roadblock together, and that's what community is about, and that's what we're trying to build with this Fit Dad community as well. I mean, it's not just fitness. It's like a brotherhood, sisterhood. It's just like ask for help. Ask for, don't be proud, So that's what excites me. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, when you talk about asking for help and how it's hard to ask for help,
Right.
I try to really shift my mindset around that asking for help. People want to help. And when you don't ask for help, you take that opportunity away for making them feel good about themselves too. So when you think about this in a workplace environment, right? If I don't, even as a leader, if I don't ask for help from those around me, from my team, I'm taking away opportunity for them to develop, to grow, to learn, all of those things, right? So me asking for help is actually beneficial to those around me. And if you think about it in a home environment, right? A story, I when I changed jobs and I did have to travel more, my son challenged me a little bit. He's like, "Why are you traveling now?" And I recognized that I had hid how unhappy I was from him to the point that he didn't recognize. And so I actually said to him, I said, "I hated my other job. Like I cried on a regular basis because I was so unhappy in that job." And if we set that standard at home for our kids, that it's not okay to be challenged, it's not okay to need help. What standard are we setting for them? Because we know that that's not realistic. And so now they're growing up thinking, my mom and dad never needed help. My mom and dad know everything. Like their life is perfect. When they grow up, that's not reality. So asking for help, showing our vulnerability, showing all those things are so important to those people around us. And when you have the community to support you as you go through that, you can open up and you can show that because like Billy said, you're going to recognize there's solutions out there and there's people that'll help you find those solutions. So it makes it easier, right, to be open about those challenges.
100%.
Yeah,
Nailed it.
100%. This is great stuff, Melissa. I enjoy your time. So this is great. So it's always Billy, it was just like a simple conversation that I had with Melissa to kind of talk about, my background. And I was just like, you know what? I'd like you to be our next guest in our podcast because, part of the community, it's also share advice and, give people opportunity to be inspired. And also, hopefully, your inbox is getting flooded tomorrow with people wanting to work with you because because they watch this podcast. So, Melissa, it was a pleasure. I enjoy having you, and hopefully, we can have you a second time for another episode. And maybe we can tell you how the first Fit Mom event went, and we can just kind of talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, no, I love what you guys are doing. I think it's amazing. And I think there needs to be more groups like this out there for everybody. So I'm really looking forward to see all that you do and love to come back. Love to come back.
I will say, Melissa, too, you had a lot of good, like little golden nuggets that we can snatch out of this combo too. And we'll throw them out there too, which is nice too.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right, so that concludes our episode tonight. So thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Billy, for your time. So I see you, and for all the fit dad, fit moms out there. Hey, how you doing, buddy? We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Discover the Fit Dad Community Podcast, where every episode strengthens your journey as a father. Hear from experts, coaches, and real dads on balancing fitness, faith, and family. Gain practical tools for your everyday life. Join us to support your family better and build stronger communities. Fit Dad Community Podcast. Fitness for life, not just the gym.